leaders struggle to find consensus on how to tackle rising energy prices.
The announcement of this year's Nobel Peace Prize provokes mixed reviews amongst world leaders, officials and human rights groups.
The UN Human Rights Council has voted to appoint a special rapporteur to investigate human rights abuses in Russia. Moscow has slammed the move.
The European Union is still trying to find a common way to contain the rise of energy prices. But differences still persist following the informal summit which gathered the 27 EU heads of state and government in Prague. There's some ideas on the table which have gained support, such as a joint procurement scheme to buy energy among all 27 member states.
One thing is very clear. There's a broad support that next spring, at the end of the winter, when our storages will be depleted, it is of paramount importance that we have a joint procurement of gas so that we avoid to outbid each other, but that we have a collective bargaining power.
But there's still a lack of consensus around the introduction of a price cap on gas. In a display of unity, the leaders of France, Germany and the Netherlands arrived together at the summit. Although Berlin's preference is for a G7 alliance to bring prices down in order to ensure the supply of gas from outside Europe.
We are supporting the price cap if it doesn't hinder the security of supply, because if we are on the market, in the world market, competing for the LNG, for example, if our region has a price cap and the other regions don't have a price cap, then we will just be out of gas because nobody sells us the gas.
The summit was also an occasion for Germany to explain its announcement of a €200 billion package to help its companies and citizens. Many European governments were critical, saying it could create distortions in the single market. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz played down the public criticism.
If you look around, you just have to realize that what we do is somewhere in the middle of quite a few decisions that a lot of people have made some time ago.
Leaders will meet again in the next 2 weeks, and it should be the occasion to finally reach an agreement on the best way to reform the EU's energy market and eventually make prices go down. Shona Murray, Euronews, Brussels.
3 winners have been awarded this year's Nobel Peace Prize. Jailed Belarusian activist Ales Bialyatsky, Russian human rights group Memorial and Ukraine's Center for Civil Liberties, highlighting the significance of civil society for peace and democracy.
The Peace Prize laureates represent civil society in their home countries. They have for many years promoted the right to criticize power and protect the fundamental rights of citizens. They have made an outstanding effort to document war crimes, human rights abuses and the abuse of power.
Belarusian civic leader Ales Bialyatsky is known for his work with Human Rights Center Vyazna. Since July last year, he has been imprisoned for alleged tax evasion, but human rights defenders say the charges are politically motivated. Memorial, the Russian human rights group, emerged as a symbol of hope during Russia's chaotic transition to democracy in the early 1990s and was dissolved late last year. And Ukraine's Center for Civil Liberties was founded in 2007 during a period of turmoil for the country. It now leads the way in recording alleged war crimes as Russia's assault in Ukraine nears 8 months.
The announcement of this year's Nobel Peace Prize has received mixed reviews among world leaders, officials and human rights groups. In a tweet, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen praised the outstanding courage of the women and men standing against autocracy. In Ukraine, conflicting emotions. Kyiv's ambassador to Germany described the inclusion of Russia and Belarus as devastating, while Ukraine's Center for Civil Liberties said they were thrilled to receive the recognition.
When we found out the news, we were stupefied. It was a great start to our day. We didn't expect it. We consider this prize as a respectable recognition of our activity.
Another winner, prominent Belarusian human rights activist and founder of the country's Vyazna Human Rights Center, Ales Bialyatsky, is currently being held in prison without trial. His wife said in a Telegram post that she felt happy for the unexpected prize, which she sees as a reward for his hard work. Belarus's opposition leader also welcomed the announcement and called for the release of her country's political prisoners.
Ales Bialyatsky now is in prison for more than 1 year, and he is suffering a lot in punishment cells in Belarusian prison. But there are thousands of other people who are detained because of their political views.
A board member for Russia's Memorial Human Rights Defense Center said that for them, the award serves as evidence that the work they're doing is worthwhile.
This, for us, this is a sign that our work, whether it is recognized by by Russian authorities or not, it is important. It is important for the world. It is important for people in Russia.
Memorial were awarded the Sakharov Prize for Freedom of Thought in 2009. Its umbrella organisation, Memorial International, were forced to close last year when Moscow accused it of breaching its foreign agent law.
Ukrainian forces continue their counteroffensive in northeast and in the south, where Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said more than 500 square kilometers of territory has now been liberated. But Ukrainian officials in Dnipro, Mykolaiv and Zaporizhzhia say Russia is ratcheting up shelling those regions. The Institute for the Study of War says Russia's use of Iranian-made drones is not generating asymmetric effects the way the Ukrainian use of US-provided HIMARS systems has done, and is unlikely to affect the course of the war significantly. The think tank explains Russian forces do not appear to be focusing these drones on asymmetric nodes near the battlefield. They have used many drones against civilian targets in rear areas, likely hoping to generate non-linear effects through terror. In the east, Ukrainian forces likely continued their counteroffensive in northeastern Kharkiv region near Kupiansk, and operations to threaten Russian positions along the Kremina-Svatove road in western Luhansk region, says the Institute for the Study of War. Russian troops continued ground attacks in Donetsk region and likely made incremental gains around Bakhmut. The leaders of the self-proclaimed so-called Donetsk People's Republic claimed to have captured 3 settlements from Ukrainian forces in Donetsk, close to Bakhmut. In the south of Ukraine, Russian troops are likely establishing defensive positions in Upper Kherson region following the collapse of the Russian line in northeast of Kherson. Russian troops are determined to hold on to Kherson as long as possible, with the city being the only regional capital Moscow has been able to capture since the 24th of February.
The UN's top human rights body has voted to appoint a monitor to scrutinise reported rights abuses in Russia. The measure was approved by the 47-member UN Human Rights Council in Geneva. It's the first time a rapporteur has been appointed to investigate rights issues in a permanent member of the Security Council.
For years, we've been witnessing a steady deterioration in the human rights situation in the Russian Federation, which has accelerated in recent months. Recent draconian laws aimed at stifling independent media and undesirable organisations, harsh sanctions for anyone who questions the government, while the large number of people arrested in connection with demonstrations are some recent examples of a systematic policy of repression.
Since Russia invaded Ukraine, thousands of people have been detained for protesting against the war and the recent partial mobilisation mandate. The UN vote came shortly after the Russian rights group Memorial became a joint winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. Russia's UN ambassador in Geneva condemned the move as a despicable document aimed at pressuring his country.
Iran's state television has aired police surveillance footage supposedly showing what happened to Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old woman whose death in custody sparked protests across Iran. The video appears to show Amini talking to a veiled police officer in a morality classroom before she collapses and is taken to hospital. The coroner's office was quoted as reporting that Amini died of cerebral hypoxia, in which oxygen supply to the brain decreases. 3 weeks on from Amini's death, Security forces in Iran have been trying to suppress women-led protests such as this. Human rights groups say the crackdowns have claimed dozens of lives. This mother claims authorities kept her daughter Nika's death a secret for 9 days.
Her face, cheekbones and teeth were ruptured. The back of her head was hit hard and her skull was deformed. This is how she was killed. The damage was to the head.
Water features in Iran's capital Tehran appear to be filled with blood after an artist turned their waters red to reflect the state's deadly crackdown on the biggest wave of protests Iran has seen in years.